All right. Joining me now, I'm only half kidding. Joining me now is the great Kellyanne Conway, former counselor to President Trump and host of Here's the Deal on Fox Nation, and Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House and a Fox News contributor. Welcome to both of you. Newt, you look great, terrific, great. Kellyanne, you look great. I love the pink. Kellyanne, I go to you first. I think Joe and Jill Biden voted for Donald Trump, and I'm not really kidding.
No, why wouldn't they? I mean, Kamala Harris made very few things clear in her campaign, but she made very clear, I'm not Joe Biden. I'll be different than Joe Biden. My presidency will not be Joe Biden's. And then, of course, Sunny Hostin and the Women of the View sunk her by asking her the very simple, obvious question, what would be different than Joe Biden? And she couldn't name a single thing. So forget her for the moment. She was supposed to be the change maker, the insurgent. And it turns out Americans saw Donald Trump that way. And so we should not be surprised that he is appointing people to his senior staff in the White House, to his cabinet, Larry, who are also change makers and doers. And people like him are going to just move with energy and alacrity and swiftness. He doesn't have another campaign to think about. He wants to get in there and take a second chance, the magnitude of which none of us have ever seen. You and I are good Catholics. We all believe in second chances. No one has had a second chance quite as large as his. If I hear one more dopey say on other networks say, oh, he wants loyalists.
Just loyalists.
Is there an organization or politician of the country that says disloyalists only apply, please? It's such a ridiculous thing, but it's loyalty to the agenda, and it's loyalty to knowing him and the way he works and him knowing them. I'll tell you what they all have in common. There's not a single stranger to him on that list. He knows them all, he understands them, and they, more importantly, understand him. I think that's the way you execute an agenda. One last thing. I know it hurt him financially, legally, personally. It hurt us all when he didn't make it in 2020, when he had to leave Washington. I think it was the best thing possible for this country. I know the country suffered. He and his family certainly suffered. But wow, it made everybody say, let's give him this demographic and geographic domination, vindication of a victory. People moving over, all the changes, the African Americans, Hispanic Americans, the veterans, the union, all of them moving over so that there's no mistake what the mandate is. It is exactly what America's asked him to do, and now he's asking these people to help him do it. And he's responsible for us to have a majority in the Senate. So they should take very seriously their constitutional duties to confirm his nominees.
Newt, come back to you on this. I was just reading your article. Been here a lot of newcomers. And, you know, newcomers, I think, are more likely to be kind of fearless, to, like, just go at it. They're not worried about future jobs or past jobs. They're just, like, in there to make a point. And I think that's a very interesting point that you've made.
Well, look, I think that's fascinating because in the 9th year of the Trump political involvement, he actually is starting, in effect, a new first term. Traditionally, when presidents get to their second term, they're a little worn out, other people a little worn out. Now you have a brand new, invigorated president, a very solid election, and the people he's appointing are eager and excited, and they share his vision of profoundly changing Washington to make America great again. I think it's dramatic. I agree with Kellyanne. It's dramatically better in an odd kind of way than if he'd stayed in office in 21, because now you have a guy who's had 4 years to think, to build a team, to crisscross the country, and I think you're going to see the results in a very dynamic presidency.
Newt, what's wrong with loyalty? I still can't figure this out. The front pages of every single one of the establishment media are talking, it's like a slur. Oh, he's appointing loyalists. I mean, who should he appoint? Should he appoint enemies? Should he appoint Kamala Harris's research staff? I don't understand this. Loyally? Really? If you believe in something, you should be out there on the front lines. I just don't get that.
Well, but that's, Larry, you keep pretending that you're dealing with news media that's news media. These are the propaganda arm of the left. They would love loyalty to the left, and loyalty to the right is a direct threat to their very existence. So from their standpoint, they wish he would appoint a series of sellouts who would do exactly what they want, not what he wants. And I think that he's gotten that message. And I think they said of Grover Cleveland the only other president to lose and then come back and win a second term, they loved him for the enemies he made. I think Trump relishes the New York Times and the Washington Post and ABC, et cetera, all of them just sitting there with their teeth gritted because he's naming people who actually believe in making America great again, and they're folks who don't believe in that.
Kellyanne, is Senator John Thune, the new Senate Majority Leader, up to the task of shepherding Mr. Trump's appointees through and Mr. Trump's agenda through?
Yes, I believe so. He has been there for 20 years, and I know in Washington swamp speak that sounds like too long, but he's been in leadership positions. I know he made amends with President Trump earlier this year, which was very smart of him to do. I seem to see him pop up at different center-right events and helping. I think that everyone who helped these Senate candidates get over the finish line in these critical swing states, Larry, most of all President Trump carrying some of them through. They didn't all make it. I think they know that they've got a mandate. One warning, though. I got there first day in 2017. We had 53 senators. We had a majority in the House. And Obamacare was not repealed and replaced. The infrastructure law didn't get passed. Tax Cut and Jobs Act signed into law December 2nd, not March 2nd. So having a Senate majority and a House majority can be a little distorting in terms of what you can get done. I think it's incredibly important for people to realize that the American people have spoken and the Senate should act thusly. We've got some great new senators coming aboard, and I think we have some senators who've been there for a while who were Trump skeptics, if not cynics, who now understand that he has reshaped this party into one where Americans are saying, never again will you tell me how to vote according to my age, my race, my gender, my zip code, my socioeconomic status, or even my political registration. This is the party of the worker. 2/3 of the voters were in the working class, non-college educated, and they have spoken very loudly. So I think I think John Thune understands that, of all races.
That's a big
change. And I think
change.
Thune understands that. Any of the three would have done a great job as Senate Majority Leader. He won fairly and squarely. Let's give him the grace.
Newt, I'm going to ask you the same question about the Senate, but I'm especially interested in how you read the House. The majority is very, very tight, and they're still counting stuff.
Well,
and they got a lot to get through. They're going to have to get through a big agenda. How do you read it, Newt?
Look, I think, first of all, Mike Johnson has the hardest job in Washington. I couldn't imagine trying to be Speaker with that narrow a margin. But I'll say this. If they design the tax cuts right, and you were there with Reagan in the 80s as I was, if they design the tax cuts right and they go to a grassroots movement, they're going to pick up 30 or 40 Democrats at least. We carried 1/3 of the Democrats for tax cuts with Reagan. We carried half the Democrats for welfare reform. The key is to do what Reagan did. Create a program, go to the country, make sure the country wants the program, and have the country pressure the Congress. They have to count on every single vote. They should be trying to get 10, 20, 30 Democrats on a regular basis, and then they'll have a comfortable majority in the House. They will not have a comfortable majority in a partisan-only vote.
You know, Kellyanne, on another subject, but I don't want to lump them two together exactly, but let me just say, Pete Hegseth at Defense raised a lot of eyebrows, I guess was controversial. Matt Gaetz at Justice was an absolute freakout, but it was a Washington freakout, okay? I don't know that it was a conservative freakout. And I think Trump makes a statement with both of those. First of all, they will defend him. They will keep to his promises, shaking up the Pentagon, shaking up the generals, taking the woke out of the military. These are all very good missions, it seems to me. And as far as the Justice Department goes, is there a more corrupt, weaponized lawfare? I mean, look what they did. By the way, they're still doing it. They just busted the Poly Market pay-for-play betting parlay because they chose Trump over Harris. I mean, give those guys a chance, really. I would think give them a chance.
And ask them the questions under oath during their confirmation hearings. That's what the Constitution allows in our great federalist, our constitutional republic. Larry, first of all, President Trump has a right to nominate whoever he wants. He's got that mandate. But secondly, you said something very important. In addition to the regular responsibilities of the Attorney General at Justice, of the defense chief at the Pentagon, defense secretary of Pentagon. Now they got to get in there and take out root and branch the nonsense offices that have been created for no reason. What, ladies and gentlemen, what is the purpose of the Pentagon? To prepare and to win wars, to safeguard this country, for God's sake. And if you have an office that's worried about DEI, and you have one over here that's climate justice, you have one over there that's woke policy. What are we doing with taxpayer dollars, and what are we doing sending the message to the rest of the world? And at justice, my goodness, Donald Trump was elected on November 9th, 2016. By January 5th, they were having that Oval Office meeting with Susan Rice and Clapper and Brennan and the whole Obama and the whole lot. The next day, Comey is in Trump Tower, and as they're finishing the intelligence meeting, takes Trump aside the way you would say, how are the kids and will it snow tomorrow? And says, by the way, we're looking into this Russian thing. We don't really know a lot about it. Don't worry. They were after him before he even got there on January 20th through the Justice Department. We know what Strzok and Page were doing. We know what, I even forgot all their names, Bruce Orr, Nellie Orr. We know what they were all doing. Not only did they weaponize, they tried to thwart democracy and the will of the people. So excuse me if it takes me a second and to watch everybody clutch their pearls as they complain that Donald Trump may want to actually root that out through Matt Gaetz.
And Trump has every right to make sure that that kind of abomination to democracy doesn't happen again.
Well, they think he's going to use it to his. They're missing the point. You're making the right point.
Right.
He doesn't want that to happen anymore. He doesn't want the Justice Department to do that, the seventh floor to do that anymore. And he's absolutely correct.
And so he's got a guy in there, as you say, give him a chance. A lot of the charges against Matt Gaetz were phony. They've never been proven. This is, again, part of the weaponization from the Merrick Garland Biden Justice Department. I mean, why should anybody believe them? Look what's happening. The whole thing's falling apart.
Oh, please,
all
the never Trumpers, the always wrong never Trumpers are the ones belly aching. They tried to call Trump names. It didn't work. People looked past that. And they tried to elevate the first female president, make history with me. People said, I'd like to make my rent and mortgage first.
Newt Gingrich, I really have come to believe that Joe Biden voted for Donald Trump, and I kind of have a hunch his wife, Mrs. Jill Biden, voted for Donald Trump. What you think, Newt?
Well, first of all, I think the fact that she wore red to go vote may tell you something. But look, Kamala Harris invites 70,000 people. Think about it. She invites 70,000 people to a rally in front of the White House with President Biden inside the White House and does not invite him out. And then she's shocked that he goes on on Zoom and describes Trump supporters as garbage, guaranteeing that his comment will drown out her entire event, which it did. I don't think that was an accident. I think that he was pretty offended personally that she would hold that kind of event in front of his house where he's staying and not invite him.
He looked very happy to me in that photo op. He looked very, very happy. Maybe the happiest he's been in 4 years. Anyway, Newt Gingrich, Kellyanne Conway,
well,
you're both fabulous.
remember,
Thanks
Larry,
very much for coming by. Yes?
I was just going to say, remember, he's the only person ever to have defeated Donald Trump, and that's all he wanted.
Okay, well put. I will see you both at Mar-a-Lago later on.